That's what you, you know.
That's who
How would you rank it? Like Democrat, progressive, in terms of adjectives? If you're putting before, you know, would you say like I say myself? I feel like I'm a progressive, and then I'm definitely a strong Democrat, but I'm a progressive.
I'm probably more. People would call me more progressive than.
Like party line. I don't just go by the party line. I mean, would you?
I don't either.
Well, or the leadership, whatever they just happen to say.
Have you watched any board meetings? I'm quite articulate about what I need to say, and I'm very good at reshaping a conversation or making points that need to be made. So I'm viewed more as a leader or an independent. She's going to go. I mean, if you ask my colleagues, they'd say she'll do what she's going to do.
Right. Okay.
So if that's your worry.
But no, it's just not a worry. It's an issue. It's a question I ask. I ask this to most. I do interviews with a lot of. You might have noticed I've been posting on Blue Virginia. I just did the 49th House District. I did the 30th Senate District, and these are.
What's going on in the 49th? I better read your blog.
Well, we can talk about that a little bit later. But there's two candists, Alfonso and Stephanie Clifford, and so and Adam, of course, is running for state senate. Adam Evans. So, can I just do a few quick yes or no ones? Like, do you support a strongly progressive tax system, including a reasonable estate tax? We'll say on the wealthy. I mean,
I support a progressive tax system.
You know, Governor Kane signed. Mark Warner vetoed this. Governor Kane signed the estate tax repeal into law. I thought it was a huge mistake. What do you think about that? That's a huge part of going back to Teddy Roosevelt and whatever, or before.
I think on estate taxes, I probably hit a middle ground there. I think there's a certain amount. You know, I mean, families want to leave inheritance to their families, and within a certain monetary amount, I could see where that could be passed on and not be taxed.
Well, there's always some number cut off.
But above that cutoff, I think it has to be taxed.
Right. Okay.
And so do the wealthy folks.
Right. A lot of them do. Bill Gates and others.
Bill Gates. Yeah. I mean, this is a windfall.
Right. Right. A lot of it's inherited. The second one is DREAM Act. Maryland just actually passed, and I think Governor O'Malley signed it now. But into law in Maryland, it doesn't seem likely in Virginia. But would you support or push for a DREAM Act? Actually, Senator Warner's pushing for it now. He's co-sponsoring in the U.S. Senate now.
Right. So DREAM Act meaning if immigrant children are here for a certain number of years, they would then be eligible to attend a state institution at the state tuition cost. Absolutely. Right.
I mean, there are actually Republicans and probably some others, but mostly Republicans who don't even want them to be able to attend state institutions even for full out-of-state. Right.
They're outright wrong.
Okay.
Divisive and short-sighted.
Right. I agree with you on that. How about allowing gay couples to adopt? That's been a big issue.
Well, of course, I work heavily in the Child and Family Services area, and I would be fine with having gay couples adopt. We do have in Arlington, we had gay members of the gay community serve as foster parents for a brief period of time. Well, no, I don't think we've limited it. But we certainly have had gay couples serve as foster parents. And, they go through the training,
Where do you think the opposition of this isn't just yes or no anymore, but coming from like Ken Cuccinelli and people like this, where's that coming from? What is that all about? Why children need homes?
I think the opposition is really hung up on having a very narrowly defined view of family.
I mean, do you think they're just homophobic? Is that the bottom line of it? I mean, we've seen with Cuccinelli, he tried to make universities not be able to prohibit discrimination.
I mean, part of it may be homophobic, but I think the bigger part is some of these lawmakers are playing to a very narrow, rabid constituency. And, I don't know how much they really believe themselves and how much they're posturing to ensure they don't have, a primary opponent on the far right.
From the Tea Party.
Because, I know when I was down in Richmond a couple years ago, I was doing something for the higher ed community, and, it was, you probably remember this, it was a law that was pending that was going to basically require state universities to allow guns in cars.
I remember that.
Because I'm with a private private institution, but we were afraid we were going to get swept up in this mess, which, it was ridiculous. So the higher ed community went down, and we talked to the lawmakers and everything, and you'd be surprised a fair number of them said, yeah, you're right, but I have to be pro-gun.
Right.
Yeah. And I said, this is anti-safety.
Speaking of another, right.
What about the impact of this?
Speaking of another powerful, well-funded interest group that takes the legislators out to dinner and wines and dines them, and et cetera, and threatens them and scores them and everything else.
Oh, I've run into them five or 6 years in a row. I went down representing Northern Virginia communities, asking the lawmakers to allow local governments to ban weapons in public buildings, libraries and community centers, and because right now, if they're not concealed, they're out in the open, they can walk in, and we wanted to change that. So I thought we had carved out a narrow exclusion. Right. Well, it was the most unfriendly. It was the most unfriendly hearing I'd ever been in. I was pretty unhappy. I mean, it was pretty bad.
So based on this, I presume you favor closing the gun show loophole. I mean, that seems like an obvious one. You don't favor having guns on campus, and like Keith Fimian, remember the infamous in the 11th congressional district race, said if the students had only been armed at Virginia Tech, then that wouldn't have happened. And he actually, Keith Fimian actually said that. We used it against him. I put it up on my blog many times, but that type of attitude. I mean, well, anyway, we can get into how you can work with people like this later. But so, gun show loophole, and then raising the gas tax. Our gas tax is below.
I'm in favor of it.
Right.
I 5 years. I went back up, organized the mayors and chairs, and I said, just allow the gas tax to go up in Northern Virginia, because I knew the downstate people weren't going to vote for it no matter what. So I figured they'd defer. The downstate people would defer to their Northern Virginia colleagues and vote it through, but they didn't, because it would have been a tax vote.
Tax increase, right? And you have people like Grover Norquist just waiting to pounce on that.
It was awful. So that was another thing that was awful. And I got all my colleagues when I've been chair of the board 3 times, and then when I wasn't chair, I got my colleagues all organized. We went down to speak in favor of the gas tax for Northern Virginia. And I had all my little arguments. 17 cents, hasn't been raised since 1987. It's one of the lowest gas taxes in the area. We can dedicate it to roads. We have low unemployment in Northern Virginia. And then I had another person speak about the environment. This would make sense. The people paying the tax use the roads. I had every argument you could possibly imagine. And
Same thing with the carbon tax. Would you support a carbon tax? I mean, I strongly support that. I think a lot of putting a price on carbon.
From buildings, you mean?
Carbon emissions from anything.
From anything?
Anything. I mean, the point is that once you put a price on carbon emissions, then the market can kick in. Once something has a price to it, then the market can supply and demand, whatever can kick in as it will do in a market economy.
I will say where I am on, buildings actually emit the most carbon.
Because they consume coal-fired electricity.
Right. So I'm a big fan of these green buildings, and I've really pushed for that.
LEED standards.
Yeah. Silver, gold, platinum. I got a platinum building in Arlington. And what we would like, and we have failed in doing this, but a couple times. In my regional role, we tried to get the General Assembly to require that buildings post their carbon emission
carbon, that's very interesting.
And we failed on that. So I guess I would, I ultimately, before I got to the tax question, would try to move some other things. I tried to change the building code, which I think would be far more effective.
I think a lot of economists believe that putting a price on carbon is absolutely crucial, and most environmentalists... The
question is, I'm not sure if the people paying the tax are actually the people whose behavior I have to change, because if you're putting a tax on it, it would be the building owner who would be paying it, and it's probably the tenants whose behavior needs to change, and whether, even if the tax were passed on to the tenants, would the tenants truly understand, what the tax was, and if they changed their behavior, they wouldn't be paying it. See what I mean?